Hello. Um, Something I used to get asked a lot. Not so recently, but I used to get asked a lot. Whole bunch of tips and tricks with installing an aftermarket radio and installing aftermarket speakers. Because normally in EXPs, or at least the first gen ones, specifically the 82 to 83 models that have this flat black dash, those models, they all have little speakers in these two corners. I think the speakers that they put in here are like 3.5 inch. Something like that. I think they're 3.5s. And they're not replaceable anymore to my knowledge. And I bring this up because they almost always fail. I don't know if they get too hot or if they just the magnet loses its oomph over time, or the coils start to oxidize or unbond. I'm not sure what goes on, but the front ones in the dash almost always fail. The rear ones seem to last a while. They don't sound great, but they last a while, and those are easily replaced with aftermarket speakers. These front ones, like I said, you can't get the 3.5s anymore. But to my knowledge, at least you can't get them at your local Menards or Walmart, or Best Buy, any place like that. But the next best thing is these really nice Pioneers. I think these are 4 inches. They're either 4 inch or just a little over 4 inch. But being that the cavity was only made for a 3.5, you have to do some modifications. So you can see here that there were previously some clips. These kinds of clips that you're probably more familiar with, that they use for fenders. So I call them fender clips, fender nuts. So anyways, there's supposed to be one here and one here. But with a 4-inch speaker, that obviously doesn't work. And Pioneer, this is a really nice speaker, in my opinion. They put a mounting bracket every 90 degrees in a perfect circle. So that means the distance from here to here is almost 5 inches. So you have to spin it some, so that two of these stems, one on this side and one on this side, can mount in this corner and somewhere in this corner. So I just held it up from the bottom side where about I thought it would sit right, and I then drilled an oblong hole on this end, and over here, or maybe that hole already existed. That hole might have already been there, so it worked out nice, which means I just had to drill out a hole here. And you can see that these aren't threaded, so don't throw away these fender clips. You need to take your fender clips and clip them around the speaker's brackets here and here. Once you do that, you can run the original screws in through those brackets, and it'll hold your speaker up. And once you get it tight, this guy's really rigid. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't vibrate down the road. It doesn't buzz. Doesn't fall off. Nothing. It just sits there. Probably even better than than the original ones did. And then you just take your cover and you smack it down back on top of that. Usually the best way to do it is to angle it in first like this, up against this wall, slide it into there first, snug that down, then over here, you'll have to get your fingers underneath it to push the tabs in So you can thump that end down. And just be careful when you're pulling it off, because if you use a screwdriver anywhere, you will crack the dash. So beware. I use nylon automotive pry bars made for interior trim. I stick them in there and I pry it up if I can. And I'll always try to aim at the metal spring pegs in there. So when you hit those, it squeezes them in. So then you just pinch the top of the cover, pry it off, and you're good again. So it's just something to be aware of. And what's neat with this modification is it's completely reversible. If at any time you find a good 3.5-inch speaker, you just pull this guy out, take your clips, put your clips back over the holes. You can see how they originally were sitting, because they leave a brown mark wherever they go. Put your clips there, set your speaker on top. It has to be on top. And then you can run your screws through there. And with these aftermarket speakers, they have to be underneath. They have to be underneath. Otherwise, these tops won't clear. That side won't clear. And then over here, I think this was notched out from the factory, but you might have to notch that out yourself. So just be aware of those few things, but once you're done, it'll sound sweet, and it'll do so for as long as you own the car. So you hook it up, and I hope you can enjoy it as much as I do. Later, guys.